Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Stephen E. Asher, and he is out of Western Kentucky. And just so you guys know, he is suffering through the snowstorm and ice that we suffered through last night, and this morning. And it was treacherous here. We were in Malvern last night at Malvern Manor. And it started snowing and sleeting, and it was very cold. And so I feel so bad for Steve that he gets to enjoy the crappy weather that we got last night and this morning. So hopefully we don't lose him with cell towers getting iced over and things like that. So, welcome, Steve, to the Paranormal Pride, and let's hope that what I said earlier about this being the easiest thing you do today. Let's hope I'm right.
Well, Denise, I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, it's one of these things. I'm sort of that guy. You already see that one guy, and it doesn't matter if it's spring or it's fall, if it's winter, generally in a t-shirt, maybe even shorts. This is sort of my weather. I'm not lying. I mean, I'm definitely wearing a hoodie and stuff right now. So I'm coping with it pretty well. But like I said, there's a lot of people, I'm sure it's going to get slammed. I'm sure school will be out. But like I said, we'll soldier on through it.
Well, they didn't close school here today or up in Malvern this morning. So it was an interesting day. For us, every time we go to Iowa, it snows. So the last time I was in Kentucky for any length of time, I got snow. So, but that's a whole different ball game. So, I know you're in Western Kentucky. Can you narrow that area down a little bit?
Right. Well, I mean, my town is Princeton, Kentucky. It's small. It's probably 13,000 people. It's about 10 or 12 miles from the Kentucky State Penitentiary in Edaville. Probably the biggest town close would be, say, Paducah, Kentucky, which is maybe to the west of us, maybe 45 minutes. Now, Nashville is maybe an hour 15, depending on how you drive. Just south of us. So we're kind of right in that little pocket. And so, yeah, it's more Midwest than probably it is Southern. It sort of has a lot of similarities to Eastern Kentucky. It's a lot of agriculture here, a lot of coal mining here, a lot of hardworking people here. And it's not in that golden triangle like a lot of states have, where that little pocket of power and money is. It's just hardworking blue collar folk here.
I'll tell you, I met my husband in Blytheville, Arkansas, which is not that far from Paducah, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So not too far from where you're at, just across the Mississippi River, just a little bit further south. So
right. I had actually went I'd actually went to Memphis before. Well, even when I was doing paranormal investigations, I still was a musician. I played in a lot of rock bands, metal bands, punk bands, and we went down for a large. There's a big event, multiple bands in Memphis, and I actually ended up. I went over the bridge and ended up in Arkansas, and so I was like, "Well, we visited Arkansas, at least." But I mean, I wish I'd had more time to really explore the place down there.
West Memphis is questionable at best, but it is what it is. But I can say I don't know Memphis well. When I went, it was fly by night, so. Even though I only live 60 miles from there, I can say that I only went there intentionally once.
Right.
So it's mostly driving through on trips and stuff. So
right.
I would love to actually go to Memphis and check it out. In fact, recently we just drove through western Kentucky on our way down to Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a lot of. Well, go ahead.
No, tell me. I'd like to hear.
No, I was just going to say, so much stuff is drive-through or flyover states, and I hate that. I've seen a lot of the U.S., especially out west and stuff, and southwest, and it's a beautiful place. I wish people could slow down enough to enjoy some of the stuff there. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of scenic beauty here. There's a lot of interesting things, like if you like folklore and things like that. There's tons of that here, and so for me, it's a wellspring. That's why I write so much about Western Kentucky, primarily, in my first books, just because, what do they always say? Write what you know. And this is something I grew up with. And I had a lot of, oral tradition from my mother and my father, from their Appalachian roots coming through Eastern Kentucky and settling in this area several hundred years ago with their forebears. So I got a very good kind of touchstone from there. And also to hear. And that's the thing. Everybody likes a good ghost story. Everybody likes to be scared, or, a good legend. So, it's worked out pretty well for me.
Well, that's where my first ghost stories came from, was my mother. She was the one that told me about the Greenbrier ghost, because she lived in that part of West Virginia at one time, because she was part of a coal mining family. And so the Greenbrier ghost, she was real big on telling us all about that story and how amazing it was for, a spirit to put someone in jail, a spirit named their killer, and that really was a catalyst for a lot of people to get involved in the paranormal. And of course, it was very oral at the time. But, now, there's signs all over the place about the Greenbrier ghosts and the Greenbrier, everything about that. And when she moved to Eastern Kentucky, a lot of the stories there revolve around the Hatfields and McCoys. And like I told you in a message, I know Eastern Kentucky. I know it very well from over 30 years of going back and forth over there, learning about all of that information, all that. So I would love to hear more about Western Kentucky. Why do I need to go to Western Kentucky and check out the history there? It's closer to me than Eastern Kentucky, but besides that, what about Western Kentucky is unusual that I should be chomping at the bit to go see?
Well, like you'd mentioned, the coal mining culture, a lot of that even ties in with the penitentiary. And what you got to understand is West Kentucky has the only supermax in Kentucky. The Kentucky State Penitentiary basically come online, I believe it was in 1888. I don't have my paperwork in front of me. I apologize. It's either 1888 or 89 on Christmas Eve, and built on inmate labor. It was sort of modeled on the old Juliet prison in Illinois. And it was a place of penance. It was not a boys' camp. It was not anything about reforming you. It was about breaking you down and isolating you and making you think and contemplate. They would have, if church and things like that, and Bibles and whatnot. But it's a thing of, it was very much hard lessons to be learned. And all that ties in with, just that whole rough frontiersman, you could be hung for just about anything back then. And that you would have men, women, children, all locked in the same sort of gulag. These people is pretty much, you ever heard the term prison rules? That's kind of where it comes from. It was, survival of the fittest, the weakest are meat. And that's just how it was. So if you are really into things like Shawshank Redemption and those type of things, here is a place, and it is still functioning. Understand, in the Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, the first book, I wrote about that and emphasized the fact that it's still a functioning prison, just as is the Western Lunatic Asylum, which is now called Western State Hospital, but in Hauntings of the Western Lunatic Asylum, this is also still a functioning hospital. Now, they don't do lobotomies and whatnot. I'm not 100% sure on if they do any kind of shock treatment or electro treatment for seizures now. But at one time, they had lobotomies, they had all that stuff, cold water shock treatment, to shock the body and stuff like that. So all that ties in. Then, not to mention a lot of the Catholic orphanages and Catholic influence. There was in my third book, I'll go ahead and just list it out since we're talking about it. The Hauntings of the St. Vincent's Academy, which is in Morganfield, Kentucky, which is a little bit north of us, has everything from, and this is so crazy, a curse of a nun who had got burned to death with, like when they were using like coal or well oil. It was way, way back. And if you follow after this, looking like an effigy of this nun, the people that actually went after her died mysteriously, maybe 6 months later. Not to mention, there's that. There's, kids that died in coal mines, back in the days when they had, coal mining. There was no rules. There's no child laws. All this ties in together. The Hart brothers, America's first serial killers, they killed for the crown. They had rape gangs. It's crazy. And people drive through and go, well, they got corn. Maybe they got hee-haw. Maybe some guys with a rebel flag, that's all they know about it. And everybody says y'all. We do. Everyone says y'all. That's true. And we will hold the door for you. But we do really have some strange, weird, dark history here. And for me, I feel it's not just a need to. I feel that's my right as a Southerner to keep these stories going. Just because they're not pretty doesn't mean that they're not important. And that's what I try to do in those books, which I actually have a new book. It's a follow-up to the penitentiary book, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, Habitual Hauntings at the Castle. And this touches on a bunch of other stories that either I didn't have the full story on, or different things that I didn't even know that were hauntings, or things that have happened since I had worked there, because I had worked 10 years in corrections and law enforcement. And I have kept very close tabs on the places that I've wrote about. And I have a lot of people still in the system, officers and whatnot, supervisors that would go, hey, this has just started. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it's happening, but this just started. So there's new hauntings and hauntings that seem to morph and change. And I don't know. I don't know if they're growing. I don't know what it is, And I got to say, from my end, as a paranormal researcher, I don't call myself a ghost hunter. There's nothing wrong with that. But, I always say I don't have a ghost head on my wall. I'm not. It's not about that. It's for the love of the phenomena. And if someone needs help and I can try to help them out with that and either problem solve it or get whatever to pass over to wherever, it's wonderful. But I don't know what these things are. Anybody, I think, who is really, really honest about it, we have our ideas and sort of a working belief, but I don't know what ghosts are. I don't, how would we know? How could we, conceive that? Something that's really not quantifiable. How are we going to, because people love to do that. People love to box things up. And I don't think it does it a justice, because you're dealing with things that are beyond flesh and bone. So for me, that's the great part of it. I'm a fan. I've been a fan of this ever since I was a little kid and had some paranormal experiences. And I was really scared. So I started hitting the public library, which was my savior, and I started reading books by guys like Hans Holzer and other researchers, and learned, for the most part, these things can't hurt you. And then I started studying all these other things, spontaneous combustion, ESP, ley lines, different bionetic electrical discharges, photography, and just all that stuff, all the stuff you'd see online in search of, and those type of things. That was where I felt where I felt I belonged. And as I got older, the books sort of just happened. I never meant to be a writer. I'm not really a writer by trade. I guess I am at this point. But, I was a guard. I was a dad, now a granddad. And I was like a musician and radio person. I did local radio. So it was sort of a weird step to do that, to take my hobby and my findings and then put them into books for people to look at. So, yeah, that was kind of different. But, there's so much here to research.
I can see that. And so you said that you had a paranormal experience.
Yes.
And so that was what started your quest in the paranormal. Was this paranormal experience, or was it the books that you read?
You know what? I read the books due to the experiences. I mean, I'm not one of these guys, and nor am I one of these families that had gobs of paranormal experiences. I don't see, Elvis in clouds or whatever. I don't get Abe Lincoln doesn't tap out messages to me or nothing. I'm a nuts and bolts guy. My college study work was criminal justice. I try to do stuff on a scientific method, and I try to, Occam's razor. If something is the most likely thing, most likely that's what it is. So, but yeah, we had lived in a small home in Western Kentucky that at the time I didn't know what was going on. There would be a lot of shadows, and not like human-sized shadows. I'm talking about the size of a cat or maybe a large rat. And these weren't ducking along the floorboards. They were ducking along the walls, the tops of the walls by the ceiling. And they would go across the wall and they'd whip around and go around the doorway into another room and would be gone. A lot of weird stuff, just cold spots, things like that. And this was not an old home. This was built in the at the time that we lived there, and it was in the 70s. That thing probably wasn't more than 20 years old. And as far as I know, there'd been no property on that property before then. And it was pretty freaky. I mean, my brothers and sisters saw different things, but we didn't talk about it. And it wasn't until I was older and I kind of made mention of it. It was like, oh, you've seen it too. And it was just one of those things. Grew up in a kind of a Western Kentucky Bible Belt town, raised mainly Southern Baptist. And so he didn't really talk about it. And there's still a lot of that now, but it's a lot better now that I've kind of come forward, because they got to know me. Like, they knew me. I wasn't just some kid, some guy blown in from Hollywood or trying to sensationalize stuff and make fun of the goofy little small town idiots to think they're seeing spooks, right? I was one of their own, and they knew me as a good guy, or trying to be. Me and my wife do a lot with special needs and advocacy for Special Olympics and epilepsy research and neurological research and stuff. So that's what they knew us as initially. But then this other facet come out, and it was like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe he seems sincere. Maybe he's getting some stuff. And then they start looking at some of the evidence, and some people even went on some investigations. It was like, wow, we didn't know. And it changes their whole paradigm.
This is a good time to take a break. So you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting at Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back in a few minutes with Steve Asher.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming. To the skeptic, there will never be enough. Hello everyone. Join Kevin and Jennifer Malik, the host of Paraversal Universe, every Friday here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET FM and The Rift. Log on or tune in as they check out the mysteries found within the 8 categories of the unknown and unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, cryptids and monsters, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, metaphysics, and forbidden archaeology. Listen as Kevin and Jennifer interview the top minds in their respective fields as they share theories and information regarding these unsolved mysteries. For future show and archive information, one can find Paraversal Universe on Facebook, Twitter, and MeWe under various Paraversal Universe headings. So, for excellent talk radio about the unknown and unexplained, check out Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, Ltd., and produced by WBHM-DB.com.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride, and I'm still your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest is still Steve Asher from Western Kentucky. And we have been talking about his first paranormal experience and some other things. I hope everybody is having a really good time. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I guarantee that I will ask your questions and you will get your answers. And so you and your family are involved in so many things that, everybody was like, these people have to know what in the heck's going on. They're not nut jobs. So if they're saying that there's paranormal stuff going on, there has to be, right? So that probably had to give you a really good feeling that the people believed you.
Well, it did, and understand too. It's I don't know if you've known anybody that's like moved, say, to the South. Your parents moved to the South 25 years ago. You're still kind of the new people. But it's one of these things, we put down pegs here back when our name was Ashurst, way back in the right after the Revolutionary War, when one of my forebears, was awarded X amount of property here. And so we've been here a long time. And it's just one of those things that the other experience I had, the one that really made me research, because it really scared me, was I had a friend sleeping over. Couldn't have been more than 11 or 12. I don't even know if we're that old. Anyway, we were out in the county at the time. This is where the same house, but it was in the county before it became city. And at night it gets really dark. County dark and city dark are two different animals. So we were crashed. I had a little bed. He was crashing one side, crashed on the other one. And so anyway, we were trying to fall asleep. Well, it started getting really cool feeling in there. It was like, this is summertime. It shouldn't be cool. And it almost felt like air was being drawn out of the room, almost like you turn an exhaust fan on and it started sucking out. Mm-hmm. And it got really cold and kind of had a weird smell. I didn't quite understand what it was at the time. It was just bad. And so my friend, who was laying nearest to the wall, I was literally on the outside of the bed. To our feet and to the left was the bedroom door, and that was the only exit. Well, the doors were open, and it was black. But then we noticed something form about almost the height of the doorway. It's a big 7-foot tall door, wide almost as much as a door, almost looked like a cloaked thing. But it wasn't. It was like you cut out space, and it was just a black hollow. That's the only way I can describe it. Blacker than black. I'm sure you've probably heard that 100 times describing something. And I'm just thinking about it. It's still really creepy. It started really drawing on us. It really felt like we were just wearing down. So he's like, he said, Steve, are you seeing? I was like, are you talking about it at the door? I said, yeah, don't talk about it. I guess he was afraid if we talk about it, it would come toward us or something. I'm like, I don't know what it is. And so he's freaking out, trying to crawl get around the mattress, down under the bed. I mean, he's beside himself. And so I'm like, I don't know what this is. And then I'm thinking, I have to do something. And so we have one of those little pool lights in the middle of the room, which is about 4 foot from me. So my mind goes, I have to get that light on. And I swear, it's like it read my mind. So it started coming in toward the room and into the doorway, not walking, hovering, gliding on the air. It was probably 2 or 3 foot off the ground. It was really wonky. It was weird. And it moved weird. It's almost shimmery, not like glittery, like a Twilight vampire. I'm not meaning like that. Just, it was off. It was almost like a wavering, like the mirage from Heat. Mm-hmm. It was so strange. And so it started coming in, and this is how silly I am. Again, being raised in the Southern Baptist tradition, I get on the edge of the bed because I'm thinking, if I don't do something, I just know it's going to do something to us. That's just everything in my head. We have to have the lights on. So I go to reach for the light, and I start singing Jesus Loves Me, This I Know. Of all songs to have to pull out of my head, that's the song that come out. Well, this thing did not make it want to be slow anymore. Then it really picked up speed. It was about 2.5 feet from me. I jerked the light switch, fell back onto the bed, threw our covers over our heads. We're sitting there shaking. I mean, it felt like it's 30 degrees. I felt like it's this cold. It's colder because it permeated you. It was a really strange type of cold. Slowly, the pressure went away. The cold went away. I ended up uncovering my head. I looked around. It was gone. Of course, boom, we're up. Every light on. We're sitting there making coffee. 9 years old, drinking coffee, scared to death. And funny side note, he never spent the night again. That is when I went I think it was that next morning. It may have been a weekend, so I may have had to wait till Monday. I went Monday right after school. I went right after school. And so I went to the library and I explained to them, I need to know about ghosts and these type of things. Can they harm you and whatnot? And they're like, well, do you want a Bible? I said, no, I mean, do you have anything about people who study these things? Do people study these things? I mean, I was so green. And so they got me like Hans Holzer's Ghost Collection and just different books like that. And so then I started coming back every few days or a week or however long it took me to read. And like I said, I would go to maybe about ESP or telekinesis, different sort of psi powers, spontaneous combustion, different sort of reverse speech, different things like that, automatic writing, Edgar Cayce and his prophecies. And it was kind of one of those deals. I would go in there and ask for that, and then it got to the point where I was a little bit more advanced. It was like, okay, well, do you have the Catholic rite of exorcism, including signs of the cross and Eucharist, and holy water when you use those? And it was sort of became, well, that's just that Asher boy. He's a sweet kid. He's just wonky. It was sort of like Pugsley. Think of Pugsley Adams. That was kind of me. And but I genuinely felt somewhat empowered. Not that I felt superior, but I felt like I had a fighting chance. And that's what it started from. And my interest in that just grew, growing up in the 70s and 80s, loving, like B movies and Kolchak the Night Stalker and In Search of and, Trilogy of Terror, all those movies and stuff, some people love to hate. That was sort of my thing. And I wasn't necessarily creepy, but I had that creepy element. You can't not study that and have a creepy element. So yeah, that's really where that started. But like I said, the books came much later. It was never about that. I never intended to write a book in my life.
We have a question for you in chat, and it kind of fits in here. And it says, what is the craziest thing that ever happened to you at a location?
Oh boy. Physically to me, and I understand me and my wife, she's not as much into investigations right now. Because like I said, our youngest little guy has CP and has some, actually just got out of the hospital with pneumonia. So, she's always dealing with that. So anymore, my stuff is very, much set up and it's quick spots. But, when we were doing it much heavier and she was very much involved with me, she was my right arm, my Lorraine to my Ed or whatever, however you want to compare it to, Adam to my Eve or Eve to my Adam. Anyway, we were at a house where a man had died of a heart attack, and the children were having issues. They were waking up with scratches, things like that, foul smells, that kind of stuff. They were swearing up and down as a demon. I'm like, slow down, slow down, slow down. Odds of you actually running into a demon is pretty high, and if you do, you're not going to do much to fight it unless you're very, very devout and know how to. You don't play with demons. So we went in there and we were investigating, and we were using like divining rods. I love divining rods. I know it sounds very old hat, but there's not a battery in it to discharge. And
I have a collection.
Okay, well, thank you. See, some people go, well, do you have the new rim pot, or do you have the new FLIR of this and that, or do you like really neat. But what are you going to do when the lights go out and those don't work? How are you still going to gather information? I say there's nothing wrong with having those, but have those old school things. Have your pendulums, have your whatever, because why not cover all your bases? I want to be, all terrain kind of guy. I can cover it if it's got juice or if it doesn't. So we were going back into this room, and the rods had already crossed really weird, and actually had caught my wife along her throat. It nicked her on her side of her neck. This is early on in the game, so I have since learned to smooth down the ends of divining rods and put like little rubber things so no one gets hurt. Nobody wants to lose an eye. So we were going into a back room where a lot of the activity was. The kids were not staying there anymore, and it was an addition to the house. And we're saying, look, you need to leave. If these people were Christian. So I said, hey, in the name of Jesus Christ, and did like the Lord's Prayer and whatnot. Well, you could hear on the voice recorders something kind of sliding, almost like a piece of granite or something moving. Like, you ever seen like those old movies where they open a panel and it like that? Did that a time or two, and it was audible. And when I actually said, guys, are you here? And no sooner than I said that, a large box fan, it wasn't quite a big industrial fan, but it was bigger than a usual fan, picked up, like lifted off the floor, flew out in front of me and smashed into the wall just about 1.5 feet from my head.
Wow.
That sucked. That scared me. And that's the thing. I don't want people to feel or get the illusion that I'm this, come at me bro guy. I'm not, that, you know what I'm saying? My hair is not coiffed. I'm not doing, 15 push-ups before I go on and stuff. It's not about that. I'm probably closer to like a Carl Kolchak, kind of like a bumbling guy who means well and is trying to help. Hopefully I know a little bit more than Carl and stuff, but I try. But that was really scary. Another time we went to a site out in the country where, I'll just tell you what happened. We were there and we were investigating this area where a trailer had, there had been some trailers out there and supposedly some weird stuff was going on. So we're out there and we take a few pictures and whatnot. We keep hearing sounds, like stuff's walking around in the woods, but it could be things walking in the woods, it's the woods. So it starts getting a little bit more intense and making kind of like rah, rah, rah kind of sounds. And I said, I'm not for sure what it is. I don't have a gun on me, which is Kentucky. Almost everybody has guns. I don't carry guns. But I said, yeah, let's kind of ease back to the car, guys. I don't want anybody to get bit by a coyote or something crazy. I don't know. Well, I said, guys, go ahead. I said, I've got this feeling that something's got a hold of me. It sounds really weird, but that pressure in the deep end of the pool where you're down at the bottom of the 12-foot and you're just like, man, this pressure is really intense. It was like that. And I said, look, guys, go ahead and get in the car. And they tried to start the cars and they wouldn't start. Right about that time, the video camera shut down. The voice recorder shut down. One camera that was the person that was out past the vehicles, that was trying to do a wide shot of some of the stuff we were doing, they could still take a picture. I said, do me a favor, please take a shot behind me. When they did, it was like how to describe it? Fog, but black. Like so hard to describe. Almost like smoke, almost like burning smoke, black smoke, not, you know what I mean? Smoke from a burning fire, but it was black. And it was all around me. So I said, okay, just chill. So I went and at the time, I had some holy water and I was again trying to say the Lord's Prayer. I said, please continue shooting as long as this camera will hold up, because I don't know what we're going to get or what we're dealing with. And so as I started doing that, you could kind of see where it was making lines through it. It was really weird. I don't know if it was messing with it. I don't know if it was moving away from the water. I don't know if the water by nature just dissipates whatever that material was. But after a few minutes of saying that and repeating that, the pressure went away. I have this weird thing that I'll touch on in a minute. That I'm very acute. I have a very weird acute ability to feel pressure changes, EMF field changes. I think everyone has it. I'm not saying like I'm gifted. It's just the way I do it. I always trust my barometer, my personal barometer. But anyway, it faded. The pressure went away from me. I said, okay, everybody in the car, great. I said, go ahead and start the car. I said, we tried it 5 times. It won't start. I said, try it again. I just have a feeling it's going to be okay. They kicked it over and it was fine. We drove down the road from there. Within 50, 75 feet of it, lights come on. They turn the cameras back on. They're working. It's working fine. The batteries are full. I can't explain that. Upon researching it, because we kept getting a voice saying Phelps. And I didn't understand what was up. Well, come to find out that the property at one time was owned by Mr. Phelps. Supposedly there was a girl. I guess they were partying and somebody had their way with the girl. Supposedly she died. I don't know if they killed her, strangled her, or what. And there had been kids coming there trying to do some sort of rite. I'm not saying satanic or whatever, demonic worship, whatever, but they were doing something they didn't need to be doing, and it really whipped up some stuff. And I think they maybe opened the door to something that they couldn't control. And we had come back sometime after that, but the trailer had burnt down and everything had almost just like it tried to eat itself up. Burned all the crop land around it and burned like the trailer gone, and so we just never went back to it. But that was probably the weirdest in regards of personally having physical contact with something. There's the only other one I can think of, and it also included the Lord's Prayer, which, and again, I'm not particularly devout, but certain things that are dark. I mean, I possibly could have said like a Hebrew prayer or Islamic prayer, whatever. I don't know, but that's what I knew. Again, use what you know. I was at a person's house. The family had been using a lot of candle magic. And I think sometimes people watch shows and don't know what they're doing. I know some people who have been 10, 12, 13 generation spiritualists. They were raised in this. It's like teaching a kid T-ball. Here, this is how you use the tarot, or tarot, however you want to pronounce it. And these people did. And they called up something dark. And so they asked me to come through and bless the house. And we blessed everything, put consecrated oil on the doors and all this, the whole nine. The one room we go to the back, and the very end of it is a bathroom in the girl's bed, or to the girl's bedroom. I can't go in the room. I've got a voice recorder before we started, and I didn't feel anything. But once we started doing it, it's like whatever it was went there. I couldn't go in the room. I'm not talking about like a mime, like can't go into their eye. Something said, you're putting your head into a wood chipper. No. Yeah. And understand, I've already worked for years in corrections around rapists and child murderers and cannibals and just the most horrible things in the world. And this stopped me cold. And I trust my barometer going, that's death, leave it alone. I don't know what would have happened to me if I went in there, but it wasn't good. So I walked back, stopped my wife. She was going to try to get the voice recorder. I said, no. And she actually took a picture of me. My eyes were like the size of saucers. I had that look like maybe you did something really dopey as a kid, and you're like, wait till your dad gets home. You're like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. It was just like that. I had that almost innocent, fearful look. Well, we went back later, and I got the voice recorder, and I was listening to it. And when I was saying the Lord's Prayer, and the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. When I would say it, it would read it back to me, but it mockingly way. So I gave the name of the Father, and it goes, the Father. I'd say, in the name of the Son. It would go, the Son. And then when I said in the Holy Ghost, amen, and it went, oh, man. I can't do it. I can't modulate my voice like that. But it was like 3 or 4 different weird sounds with whines and screech. It was part of my language is the damnedest thing, pardon the pun. And, but after we did that, things calmed down. And, unfortunately, sometimes people get addicted to stuff like that. So they tried it again. I actually did bless the house one more time. And when I said, if it happens again, you're on your own, just because there are other people who really need help. And I think you do, but I think that sort of help you're needing at this point is not so much with that board as your obsession with the board. So sometimes you kind of got to tough love stuff like that. And I hope it doesn't sound crass or mean. It's just, because we're taking time from our families. We're taking time from this and that. People could be doing whatever. And if they're not taking it serious or it's a game to them, I can't be a part of that. It's a waste of my time and theirs too.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal when people decide that they, recently we were invited to a party, and I think that we were invited as entertainment, not as guests.
Probably.
And
Exactly.
and we were just coming back from vacation, and I wasn't feeling well, so I gracefully bowed out without saying, hey, I think that we're the entertainment. But I was able to, like I said, gracefully bow out without stating what I thought was going on. But it worked out. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We have another break that's getting ready to start shortly. So you'll be so we will be going on the break here, and come on back, and we'll be talking back to Steve about some more things shortly. Thank you.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Stephen E. Asher. He's out of Western Kentucky, and he is a wealth of knowledge. I am really enjoying this, and I could just listen to his voice all night. This is very easy tonight. So, you how many books did you say you had? 3, 4?
Okay, there's a total of 4 of the Haunting of series.
Okay.
The last one about the penitentiary, which is a follow-up, is out now through Amazon. I'll just throw that out. And that's it on the Haunting series. That's not to say I don't have other books that touch on hauntings. I have another book about a thing called the Great Mud Flood, which there was almost like a conspiracy theory. It's one of those things of people going, well, hey, if you look at certain times back in like early 20th century, or early, not early 20th century, sorry, like the advent of the first cameras. What was that, like 1700s maybe? Middle, late 1700s. I'm sorry, I suck at this. But, and you would find places like the St. Petersburg Chapel, and this is being built. This is a very large area. A lot of people lived there at the time, and pictures on the street, no one was there. It was completely barren, mud everywhere. The streets were completely mudded, and the buildings, the cathedral had about an 8 to 10 foot mud mark where it looks like they were digging out mud. Why would you build a building just to cover it up with mud? So anyway, I went, that's a weird conspiracy. I've never thought about that before. So anyway, I wrote a small booklet about that. I have a book of short stories coming out that covers everything from sci-fi to local legends and whatnot. And I'm writing 2 books about Kentucky counties. There's 120 counties, 60 chapters per book. And it touches on everything from red-haired giants to UFOs, to lizard men, to the Middlesboro, which is in the middle of a caldera, and it has strange electromagnetic fields, and people supposedly see different things. And the stones have really unusual property because it's strained quartz and just all kinds of weird stuff like that. But I am also putting together a couple books, I think along the lines of, a fictionalized town based around real towns. Probably the person that you would think of most likely that does it, say someone like Stephen King. And you would have a quirky little town locked in real towns, and it has different interactions with it and different kind of spooks and monsters and things. So that's kind of what I'm doing. But I also want to do a book on just Kentucky folklore and Southern folklore, all that weird stuff, like you lift your feet going past the county line or whatnot, and just those weird, quirky little Southern kind of derived things, because again, that's what I know.
Yeah.
So
the Ozarks have a lot of those as well. In fact, I have a couple books on the Ozarks folklore.
Granny witches and things. It's huge. I had a gentleman on, and I'm so sorry I'm blanking on his name, and I will try to get you his name once I'm off the air, because I also do a little podcast, House of Asher, if I can mention that. But yeah, there's so much there, and there's so much, again, that ties from that to Western Kentucky, because a lot of those people that maybe moved out of there, the handful that did, because a lot of people stayed there, settled in this area. Now, the ones, of course, that were going west for gold and whatnot, but the ones that were farmers, and it's like, you're really just settled here in Missouri as well. Mm-hmm. So there's this sort of smear from Eastern Kentucky through here. I was going to tell you, too, I should have mentioned.
Are you there, Steve?
Yes, I'm sorry. Someone tried to call me. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
So sorry about that. There was a thing where my father had worked at the same penitentiary I did back in the 50s and 60s. And poor family, it's one of those steady jobs. And then he went on to be a beat cop and chief of police, actually, in Princeton and Dawson Springs, the next town over. Anyway, but his father, my grandfather, was actually in the penitentiary back in the 30s for counterfeiting, bootlegging, rum running, petty larceny, and just, I don't know, whistling on a Tuesday, whatever sort of crazy stuff they had going on. He was kind of just poor old country boy, and, he would steal grain out of people's houses to make mash, and the sort of stuff you'd see on those old timey hillbilly movies and stuff. The guys with the big jugs with the X's. That was my grandpops. So anyway,
that's my family.
Well, there you go. Hey, we're in good company. Mm-hmm. But he was the type of guy, good friend to have, bad enemy to have. So that's kind of like my whole bloodline. So, but so it's funny, what do you get when you have, a convict, rum runner, and a guard? You eventually end up with a writer. And when you have my grandfather, who, when he got out of the penitentiary, went to work for the funeral home that's right across the street from me. I mean, if that's not a Stephen King book right there. He worked there until, he passed away. What do you get when you have a grave digging convict, and this night you get a paranormal writer? So,
yeah, you could, for sure. One of the questions we have in chat, it goes back to the story before the break. It's that the question is most of what Steve does now is helping in residential hauntings? And who are some of the people in the residential field that you look up to?
Hmm. You mean people that primarily do just residentials?
Yes.
Well, if we're talking about television, which, and understand there's an element of entertainment in that, you have to look at stuff. I don't care if it's ghost hunters or especially ghost adventures, things like that. A lot of things are going to be scripted, and just understand that, because they're never going to have an entertainment show where it goes, this is an episode where he forgot the FLIR. Or this is the episode where nothing happened and everyone got bit by mosquitoes. This is the episode where, the cops broke it up because they forgot to get permission to go to that graveyard.
Or they got too loud and the cops got called, because that did happen on one episode, but you didn't see that on TV.
No. Well, see, and that's the thing. I'm very lucky in my area. So if I do something, say the graveyard, I contact the police, I contact the sheriff, whoever, whatever jurisdiction it is, and explain to them who I am. Most of them know me by now as that, that Asher boy. And so I just got to go, hey, it's me. We're going to be doing a thing. We're obviously not disturbing anything. We'll be gone by this and that. And we'll let you know when we're out the cemetery. So if something happened before we're there, it ain't us. If something happened after it, it ain't us. But to answer your question, I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. Kindred spirits, I think, I like the vibe of kindred spirits. I think they're heartfelt. I think some of the gadgets they've used, like the bear that has all the different readings and stuff, but what little kid doesn't love a teddy bear? That's genius. So it's even if a thing, because I was like, well, what if you go investigate an Amish place, you put a flashlight, they're not going to touch it. They're going to run from that thing. So if you got something that looks like, oh, it's just a toy, it's a little teddy bear or a corn silk doll or something like that, maybe they would investigate it. So for that, I think that's really great. I did obviously like the Ghost Hunter show, and I know there was kind of a divide now. I've not really seen Jason's. I have seen Grant's. It seems pretty good. Obviously you're going to have some of that piped in atmospheric music, and I can kind of take or leave that. But that's kind of the one that really stands out. I'm not into that come at me bro stuff. I really just hate it when people are learning and go, oh, well, I got to antagonize them. Why? Where else would you do that? You do that at Walmart? Do you do that at, at your granny's house? I'm thinking this is someone's grandma, somebody's kid, somebody's whatever, and they're lost if they're actually spirits.
I'm sorry to say this, but people do that at Walmart. Just for fun, they do. It's Walmart,
everyone loves to hate Walmart. I'm not saying, come give me a sponsorship or anything for this, but I'm glad we got it because I'm in a small town. We'll take that. If I can get my taxes, my tires, this and that, get, milk or whatever, get my glasses fixed, I'm with it. But, right. It does hurt the mom and pop shops, which I still always go through mom and pop shops for all my books, just because, support local if you can.
Right. But again, Walmart started as a mom and pop.
Right. No, 100%.
So, and that's in the area where my husband's family grew up. So,
Arkansas, of course.
So, so like I said, it's one of those, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But I like Walmart just fine. But I make fun of it too. So,
you see some like the people at Walmart and stuff. I think some of that's set up.
It is.
I've seen some wacky dressed folks in there, and I've also seen. Sometimes I've seen homeless folks, that aren't always together. I'm not saying all homeless folks are mentally impaired, but there's a certain amount that are, and so that's usually the ones that's going to be screaming at the grapefruit and smacking their heads with raw chicken and walking around in a circle. And they're going, well, look at that crazy guy at Walmart, and they post it. But to answer that question again, in my long-winded way, I apologize. I do a lot of counseling anymore, especially when it comes to residentials, because especially if somebody who wants to do it and can do it, I'm sort of that. If you can kind of do it on your own, I'm with it. And if you need my help, do that. I'm kind of like doing the training wheels. Like, here, I will show you how to do this. You don't have to have me, and you don't have to pay somebody. Never pay anybody. I'm like, say if somebody wanted me to do a program, say let's just say Arkansas. If they could maybe help with a little bit of the gas, that's all I'm worried about. There's no to actually do paranormal work. To me, I feel dirty. I don't feel right. And I know some people make a living on that are psychic and whatnot. That's your choice. I feel wonky. Like I feel that it's just wrong for me, because I remember how scared I was when I was a kid. I don't want any other kids scared. I don't want anybody having sleepless nights and children's childhoods being, screwed up. Which I think overwhelmingly that people are like that. But then again, there's some that aren't. I don't understand the concept of, I understand giving classes, maybe ghost hunting 101. I don't understand making someone a certified anything, because how do you certify the unquantifiable?
I know.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? I'm not.
Yes, I do. I know those people.
Yes. And that's.
I will. I call them out, but that's a whole other game. But
that's right.
Yes, I have an issue with that because who qualified them to certify people? But that's a whole other ballgame.
Well, I was just saying, and who's to say that their ideas are concrete? We all kind of going, well, this is a residual, this is a this is a that. I always say most paranormal researchers believe this is a that, because I can say it is. How would I know? I know it sounds goofy, but like I said, whenever I do a thing, any sort of program, I go, look, I am Steve Asher, which it's not Steven. We didn't have the money for the Asher letter, just Steve Asher, Stevie Asher. And I said, I'm nobody. I'm just a kid that grew up in Princeton, Kentucky, playing in the Trail of Tears Creek, Big Springs Park, catching crawdads in a pair of overalls. I'm a little simple country guy. I said, but I've been lucky enough or unlucky enough to have some really weird experiences, and I want to share them with you. And that's where I go with it. I try not to make a big production about stuff, because if you want that, that's cool, but that's not what I'm not trying to do that to people.
I can respect that. And that is why you're on this show. I agree with the certification, but like I said, I have a problem with that. And some of the places that I volunteer at have to deal with people that provide certifications. So I smile a lot and shake my head. So, but that being said, some of those people do draw a lot of people to locations. So that's all I can say. But like I said, I have an issue with that myself. And I've gotten into disagreements with people over that, because people will tell me things like, well, if people will pay for it, I'll provide it. I'm like,
right. Well, but the problem is this, I look at it like a hustle. You don't understand. I mean, I worked years and years in corrections. My dad was, in law. I mean, he basically raised me up to be a guard or a cop, one or the other. So when I see somebody come and going, hey, let me help you, my immediate thing is to go, and unfortunately, that's how you have to be. Okay, what's your hustle? What are you getting out of this? Why are you doing that? And the thing is, if you're paid to do a hunt or whatever, to find ghosts or whatever, you're going to find them. Because if you go to 2 or 3 different things, I went and we didn't see nothing. It was boring. We're just sitting around. No one's going to come to your next one. You're going to have to salt that mind. You're going to have to do something like that. Which for me, if I was, I've never taught a class like that, but it's because it's real simple. You can teach it yourself. But I would be like, look, I can teach you the tools. I can kind of teach you some of the telltale signs that I've encountered, and you can kind of write that down and do whatever. But is this the gospel according to Steve Asher? No, because again, I'm playing it by ear. I'm as green as anybody else. You know what?
Since you're green, we got to go to break, and we're going to come back to this. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. This is the top of the hour news break, and we will be back in about 5 minutes.
A new phase in the impeachment probe. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. It's about to shift gears with open hearings beginning this week. Fox's Jared Halpern is live in Washington.
House Democrats move to the public phase of the impeachment inquiry Wednesday, a hearing set with witness testimony from Bill Taylor, the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, and Deputy Assistant Secretary of State George Kent. Both Kent and Taylor described in closed-door depositions shadow policymaking with Ukraine that included President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. Kent told House impeachment committees President Trump wanted Ukraine's president to go to a microphone and say 3 words, investigation. administrations, Biden and Clinton. Friday, House committees will publicly question Marie Yovanovitch, the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, who says she was a victim of a smear campaign by Giuliani. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. Well, President Trump calling it the impeachment scam in tweets earlier today before honoring veterans in New York, likening the city's towering spirit of strength to theirs.
That spirit has helped our fighters defeat tyrants, conquer fascism, vanquish communism, and face down terrorism.
The president helping to kick off New York's Centennial Veterans Day Parade. Vice President Mike Pence leading the annual tributes at Arlington National Cemetery.
Every veteran of the armed forces of the United States is a hero to the American people.
Also laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. An early blast of winter from the Rocky Mountains to northern New England. Parts of Indiana, Michigan, and Vermont could get a foot of snow, followed by possible record cold. As far south as the Texas Gulf Coast could drop below freezing. Mixed finish on Wall Street as the numbers settle. Looks like a new record close for the Dow, up about 13 points, with the S&P and the NASDAQ slipping today. America is listening to Fox News.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. That's the problem growing businesses have because of a hodgepodge of business systems. One for accounting, another for sales, another for inventory. If that's you, you know it's a mess that takes up too much time and too many resources. And that hurts the bottom line. You need NetSuite by Oracle, the cloud-based business management software that gives you the visibility and control you need to grow. With NetSuite, you save time, money, and unneeded headaches by managing sales, finance and accounting, orders, and HR instantly from your desktop or phone. That's why NetSuite is the world's #1 cloud business system. Companies that use NetSuite grow 3 times faster than the S&P 500. And right now, NetSuite is offering you valuable insights with a free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits at netsuite.com/Fox. That's netsuite.com/Fox to download your free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. netsuite.com/Fox.
Lifeguards closing a section of California's Venice Beach over the weekend as medical waste and needles washed up on shore.
Sunday morning, people spotted more than 100 orange tubes, needles, and lancets, which are used to prick fingers for blood samples, on the shore in Venice. LA County lifeguard Captain Julio Rodriguez says they typically find 1 or 2 pieces of medical waste like needles on the beach, but not this many. It is not clear how they got to shore.
From the drift pattern in the area, it looks like they did drift in. Either they were dumped off a boat, thrown off the end of the pier, or it's possible they could have flushed out through a storm drain system.
The LA County Public Health Department is investigating where the medical waste came from. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Cholesterol levels are dropping in the U.S. a few years after a change in treatment guidelines. In addition to the level of bad cholesterol, doctors are supposed to take other risk factors like diabetes into account before urging medication. Researchers in Alabama examining the records of people taking cholesterol-lowering medication say more diabetics, for instance, are getting treatment, but they caution other high-risk groups still need more care. A former NFL player dies young.
Former Michigan State Spartans All-American and Detroit Lions wide receiver Charles Rogers has died at the age of 38 from liver failure, according to former coaches of his at Saginaw High School, who told MLive.com that doctors had given Charles 30 days to live if he did not get a liver transplant. Rogers' former football coach at Saginaw, Don Durrett, said he spoke to Charles this past weekend and said, quote, he was going to the Lord. The second overall pick in the 2003 draft, Rogers' pro career was cut short by injuries and drug problems. He played only 15 games for the Lions over 3 years after he'd caught 27 touchdowns in just 2 seasons at Michigan State.
Fox's Jared Max. Rogers is survived by his 8 children. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
This news report is brought to you by NetSuite by Oracle, the cloud-based business management software that gives you the visibility and control you need to grow. NetSuite is offering their free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits at netsuite.com/Fox.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Steve E. Asher. And he is an amazing guest. I think you guys should go out and check out his books on Amazon. I think that you will find them to be amazing. Or what is your website again?
Okay, my actual home base site, it's all lowercase and together, steveeasher.com. So it's like Steve with 2 E's, Asher.com. And you'll find links to most of my books. You'll find links to my podcast, House of Asher, and also the upcoming web series, History from the Dark Side, that I'm doing about, funny enough, local weird haunted stuff and things like that. And but you can also go to Amazon, check it out. My first 2 books are on Community Press, and my last ones have all been self-published, because I learned I can actually eat if I self-publish. So that way I make a little bit more of my money back. So, but yeah, check that out on Amazon, and make sure to, if you like it, please leave a fair review and tell a friend about it.
Well, that's what we're here to do. That's part of what this show's about, is so we can tell some friends about your books, and hopefully I'll find some time to get out there and read some more. I'm still reading books that I've been sent to review, and I love reading them. So, right. Back to the question that I had in chat. So you finished up the one, and you started to really answer part of the question that they had. And the question was, does he enjoy any of the paranormal shows, and which ones? And you mentioned Kindred Spirits and the new Ghost Hunters. And you did mention a little bit about some of the other shows. Which of those shows do you enjoy? I mean, not that you think that it's credible or anything like that, but which ones do you enjoy?
No. I mean, as I was mentioning, Kindred Spirits, we enjoy quite a bit. The Dead Files, I think that's pretty interesting for the fact that they have a very, strict, by the numbers, ex-law enforcement guy that, of course, gets me right in the top fills, and then also, the partner who's, more into the spiritual side. And I always kind of felt like that's sort of where I'm stuck. I'm kind of a nuts and bolts guy, but I've seen so much wonky and weird stuff. And I'll say wonky a lot. I apologize.
It's okay. My husband just laughs every time he hears it. So,
well, I'm trying to not use a lot of blue language, because being a ex-corrections guy, I can cuss a blue streak. So, but yeah,
I appreciate wonky over the other words that could be used.
See, there's a reason. But yeah, those are really the ones that really stand out to me. Again, and that's not to say things like, say, Ghost Adventures or some of those different ones aren't bad. I mean, I just look at them as just pure entertainment. I don't take them as, I don't really take any of them as this is how you conduct a hunt. But I think there's ones that have better elements and a little bit higher minded, less lowbrow, brass taxes, shock and awe kind of vibe. And that's the ones that I mentioned before, Kindred Spirits and then the Ghost Hunter show and things like that. And Dead Files. I really like that as well. I kind of dug, I don't know if it was necessarily paranormal, but some of the stuff where Jack Osborne was doing stuff. I don't know if you remember that one.
You mean this Portals to Hell?
Well, Jack Osborne, he was doing, which is like Ozzy Osbourne's kid, because of course I grew up with Sabbath and things like that, because I was very blessed to have Sabbath in my life as a little kid. But
we still have it in our lives in our 50s, so it's okay.
See, that's cool. Like I said, I have like a great big golden kind of Ozzy looking cross on my wall over here next to my little creepy haunted dolls and my picture of Silver Bullet and Trilogy of Terror and Kolchak. But yeah, those are the ones that I think, for me, really jump out. I kind of like the Boo Brothers too, because it was funny.
Oh, I see. I like the Ghost Brothers, and
I call them the Boo Brothers. That's Scooby Doo. I love that too.
I like the Boo Brothers, but yeah, I like the Ghost Brothers. But I liked Ghosts in the Hood, and it got canceled, and I really liked that one, and so I missed that one, and. But
there are certain things. I love series and things like that. I'm still not happy that Forever Night and some of the different ones like that got canceled. What was the one? Not Norliss Files. That was a movie. Dresden Files, things like that. Wasn't necessarily a paranormal ghost show, but it had paranormal elements that I really enjoyed.
Well, I'm still upset that Supernatural's ending this year, and it's not because of any other reason than I love the sarcasm that's in it.
Well,
When
I'm
House
just waiting
went
to see.
away, I needed it.
Well, what do you think? Do you think they're actually going to do a spinoff with the sheriff, or do you think there's going to be? I know we're kind of going off.
That's okay.
off.
They said that they were going to at one time that they were going to do that, and that, you know, that sheriff. Do you know that she used to play on The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody?
Yeah, at first I said, man, that looks so much like. And then we were doing like the Tipton, you're at the top, and they started kind of doing the song, and my kid's like, yeah, that's the mom from Sweet Life. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't feel so.
So needless to say, if they do something like that, I thought they would have already. They had already talked about one where it was going to be based in Chicago with the vampires and the werewolves, with the kid whose girlfriend got killed by some guy, and that never happened. And then they said there was going to be one with the girls. And
this is what I want to see. This is what I want to see, and they could do it. Okay, you were not probably a comic book kid, I'm assuming. There was I loved X-Men because I love mutants, and so anyway, there was a thing where there was a timeline shift, and there was an alternate universe, and some of the good guys were bad, and some of the bad guys were good, and this and that. I think it would be interesting. So after the series goes, but maybe, you know, Lucifer comes back. The guy that plays Lucifer, and he's like what's considered the old Lucifer, the untarnished Lucifer, who was like an angel of God, right? And he'd be like super, super good. And then you'll have some of the other characters turn really evil. Maybe they made pacts with demons and they're demons themselves now. They're just that, and kind of had this weird alternate universe. And then you could bring back different characters. You could bring back the dad. You could bring back all kinds of different stuff. But that's just an idea.
Who knows what they're going to do? But at this point, I know Crowley's never coming back. Never.
Well,
he's already said that. I saw him, and he said, "I'm never coming back."
He said they burned pretty bad.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
he said it was at Comic-Con here in Kansas City. He goes, "I made sure that when I died, that I died permanently, that they cannot bring me back. Even if there's a movie or anything else, they cannot bring me back. I'm dead forever."
Yeah.
And then they brought on John Cusack, but that was it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, Ron's going to be really upset because my husband really liked Crowley. So
I loved Crowley.
He was. Crowley. I loved the sarcasm. That was the reason I started watching the show, was the sarcasm. And
I really liked Kevin Tran.
I liked
the
Kevin.
Prophet kid. Well, the thing is too, because two of my sons are Asian, right? So I'm like, quit killing the Asian people. And then when they killed Glenn on Walking Dead, I'm like, F this. I'm over this. Yeah. No, but it took me a while. It took me a while to get back into it. I'm trying to, because hopefully Negan's going to crack a lot of heads this new season. We'll see.
I've never watched The Walking Dead. I know who the characters are, but that's about it from other people. But yeah, Supernatural is I'm behind because we tape it and then we watch it together, and we have to watch it when there's nothing going on so that we can focus. But that is my guilty pleasure, is watching that show, and I've gotten my husband involved in it.
Oh, that's super. As I would say, well, go ahead.
No, I'm just upset that it's actually ending, but no show can go on forever. You know, like the Korean War had to end in MASH.
Right.
You know, it couldn't go on forever.
You can only play that tune so long. I was going to say, and again, I use terms like edumacation and pick 'em up truck because I'm a silly hillbilly. But I was going to say it's quite romantical of you guys to sort of have your little date night and stuff. I think it's necessary, and that's what people forget. You can get so caught up in the paranormal that's all you do, and it sort of sucks the life out of anything else. And it's hard to just be. When I say normal, I'm using air quotes over here, but did you ever see the movie? What was it? Wayne's World. And they went to the penitentiary, and there was that one guy, it was Phil Hartman, and they were talking about this as if you want to hear a real story about the penitentiary. And he tells them this just god awful, horrible story about a guy having sex with somebody's eye cavity or something. And I don't want to be that guy. And it's so dang hard because I've got so many horrible stories. I'm like, I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be this guy. So I have to sit there and go, cool. Yeah. And so I shut up because, it's hard to blend in. which I should mention, I am available for children's parties. So there's that.
So we've got some more questions in the chat, and I don't know if you can answer this in 3 minutes. So I'm telling you that now. We got a break in about 3 minutes. And the question is, are there any local legends that you actually believe are true?
Yes. Oh, you want more? Okay.
I'm just asking, can you answer it in 3 minutes? If you can't, we'll hold that off until the break, and we'll go from there. There's also another question that you might be able to answer in less than 3 minutes.
Okay, lay that one on me.
Okay, that one is do you believe in Bigfoot or aliens?
I believe that anything is possible. I believe that there's so much evidence and just paper trails, video trails, physical evidence that's been spirited away about UFOs. Almost for sure. Why would we be the only things left in the universe? Bigfoot, a little bit harder to sell, because only thing I found in Bigfoot was that they went to the next episode still trying to find Bigfoot. But that's not to say that there aren't. I have people here locally in Western Kentucky who swear up and down they have something like that in their woods. A lot of, rock knocking and tree banging and all this and that, and the whoops and all that stuff. In barren areas, there's no one out there. And so I'm open-minded enough to investigate it or look into it, but I'm not enough to have my brain roll out, if that's an answer.
Well, that part of Kentucky, when I drive through the part of Indiana that's straight north of there, and in the parts of Missouri that's west of there, it does look squatchy. According to what Matt Moneymaker would say, and the guys from BFRO, it does look squatchy. So could there be Bigfoot in them woods? Right. Don't know. Am I going to see him hitchhiking on the side of the road? I doubt it.
How many times have you had people that go, oh, well, this animal was extinct, blah, blah, 1800s, it killed the last one out, and then they come and find one.
Right. It happens.
We don't know that much. I mean, humans like to think we're on top of it. And there's so much out there. I mean, I think we have a fairly decent game at it, but, we've explored like maybe 1% or something of the ocean. They talk about, the UFOs, whether the identified aqueous objects or whatever they call it. I'm sorry, I suck at that. Right. But there's all kinds of things out there that we don't know. So, I mean, you just have to kind of, again, just look at it like, well, show me what you got. Show me what evidence you got. And let's put this together and see how likely this is.
Well, my cousin works for NASA, and he says that there is nothing that they haven't identified alien-wise.
You mean
they know what it is?
Terrestrial? Or they know that it's an alien?
Yep, that he goes, we know everything that's out there. We know what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you hear, beliefs about them having meetings with the president and the bases under Dolce, and there's supposed to be stuff under here in Kentucky in the land between the lakes, which is a whole nother episode. Yeah. But, so yeah, I mean, why not?
Who knows? So, I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about what we don't know. That they, all the conspiracy theories about what Washington is hiding from us and all that. And we could sit here all day and go, we can't prove any of this. And I used to live by Aberdeen Proving Ground where a lot of this stuff was hidden at. But on that note, we are at another break. You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We'll be back with Stevie Asher in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a programmed to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Steve E. Asher. And we are having a really good time talking about a lot of things that I agree with, which is great because I don't have to disagree with anything tonight, which is wonderful. So we are going to go back to the question that I asked before the break that was going to take a little bit of time. So we're going to go back to that. And the question was, any local legends that you actually believe are true?
Well, goodness. Let me think. I mean, obviously, a lot of the penitentiary stuff I know is true because I've seen it. Legends about, people still haunting the property and things like that. Obviously, there was a story about this is right around the Civil War time. There was a slave and he had a son. Well, his son ran away right before everything, went down where, everybody got emancipated. Well, the son ran and joined the Union and fought for the Union. Well, this made it really hard on the father. He was really mad at the son and supposedly died, really upset with the son. And the story is that, the spirit of the father is looking for the son outside the penitentiary because now that he's passed and he sees the full picture, he's sorry that he disagreed with them and this and that. And this is something relatively recent. I never heard anything about that, but I've had a lot of people come and talk to me about that. And so things like that was really wonky. There are different things. There's a legend about a gunfight. Princeton at one time was known as Princetown before that. And before that, it was called Eddie Grove. And because of, the tree-lined area where all these rivers converge, which is part of the Trail of Tears. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there was a gunfight up there. This guy was playing cards with his buddy or whatever, swearing up and down that the guy was cheating him because he was beating him. And a little drinking was going on. Well, the guy finally got up and unloaded his 6-shot into him. Guy bled out on the floor. They checked his pockets, his sleeves. There wasn't anything. He wasn't cheating. But they swore up and down. Well, something happened. He did something with the cards, whatever. And he said, I did not do this. And I said, you guys will never forget what you've done in here. So, you will know what happened here. I will never let it be forgotten. And what had happened was they didn't really get a ghost. But what they got was where the guy bled out. They would paint over it. They would lacquer it. They would do all kinds of stuff, sand it down, and the blood kept coming through. And to this day, they said there's an area right up in town, and it used to be a string beans coffee shop. But there's a room toward the back that's not really used for whatever reason. And there's a spot where it's this sort of dark brown, not quite mud stain, like dried blood when it soaks into stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they usually keep it covered up. I think they put like a piece of paneling or, like a half wall paneling that sometimes people put up to look nice. They have something, try to put stuff up there like that, but it's still there.
They call it wainscoting usually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird.
I can see where they wouldn't use that area if they didn't have to.
Yeah.
So it
just
makes it easier.
Well, yeah, exactly. And just like a lot of little southern towns, we downplay stuff. It's not the sort of thing we talk about in polite society and whatnot. But I think when you don't discuss stuff, especially when maybe somebody felt that they were wrong, it's only going to make it stronger.
Yeah, I think so too. Because it is what it is. There is a very strong feeling that's there that needs to be released somehow, some way, until it gets its point across, or its business is finished, or whatever people want to say. But I just think that there's something there that just wants to communicate the pain of whatever was done wrong to them. So, right. We got another question. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and that's the sort of thing that to me is probably closer to what you would say an actual human ghost or human spirit, or maybe just that last spark of life of going, I will not leave here. This will not be forgotten. So, it still could probably be a residual. I don't think people are getting responses to say it's like a intelligent haunt, but yeah, it's still weird all the same.
Yeah. I do have a question about, you were talking about your books on the counties. And yes. Because I know Pike County so well, what would be your story for Pike County? I know it's in Eastern Kentucky. Do you have a story for Pike County yet, or not?
Actually, right now, my first book got up to, I think, the G's, H or G's. And so I'm just doing alphabetical. And so that way it's easy for me to kind of keep up with what counties are where and whatnot. So I'm just kind of going alphabetical right now. I'm into the G's.
Okay. Well, then how about Franklin County?
There's a lot of stuff that touches on giants there. There's a lot of stuff that touches on like mound-related things like that. And you can look up and see where people have found, again, strange skeletal formations and stuff. And so he goes, well, no, maybe it's a mastodon or something like that. I said, but these are humanoid-looking structures, humanoid-looking features, other than, some people would report maybe they would have 6 fingers, or they would be 9 foot to 12 foot tall, and just really heavy bones, like more like Cro-Magnon bones, but Cro-Magnons weren't that size. And also their skulls were different. They didn't have the, because I don't know if you know, Cro-Magnons had larger skull cavities than we did. So it's one of those things where, that kind of thing. And that's, again, ties in with a lot of the stuff, just like I was talking about Morganfield, Kentucky, it tied into the Hart brothers and all that crazy stuff. And these, serial killers for the crown that would kidnap and, rape, well, not any other way of putting it, but they would kidnap and rape these women and brainwash them, and Stockholm syndrome. And then they become part of their little crazy, Charlie Manson crew, and they're out trying to, seduce men and come around here, and then boom, and then the guys kill them and gut them and fill them with rocks and throw them down in a river basin. Sorry, I don't mean to be descriptive, but that's what they did. And there were so many bodies after the fact of that, after the fact of them even dying, that they took them across into Webster. I think it was Webster County. It's across from Morganfield, and which is in Union County. I only know this because I investigated. It's where we went to the orphanage, and so I learned the story early on. Well, they went through the trial. They cut their heads off. I think they may have possibly hung them, shot them, and cut their heads off. I mean, they weren't taking any chances. Put their heads on pikes in front of the courthouse at Webster as sort of a message: this is what happens when you come here and do things here like that. Well, after a while, the heads began to deteriorate. So now they have these rotten, funky heads on posts that they're going to have to get rid of. So then they take it to the edge of the river and put it facing where people would come across from Union County as, again, a message: this is what will happen to you guys if you mess with us. And there is a legend that they have basically headless men walking around. You can hear them like gasping through their windpipes and all this stuff. And again, this is a legend. I've never seen it. And they're more or less looking for their heads. Or, sometimes they're looking for anyone's head, but they're trying to replace their heads that they lost. And then sometimes people talk, of course, there's, disembodied heads floating around, and they're trying to talk, and, their mouths are moving, but you can't hear anything because they don't have any lungs. And, again, legends. I'm not saying it's, concrete anything, but I think it's really, fun in a messed up way, because it's, it's just like a good ghost story. And that's the thing. I want people to look at these and have fun with them. If you can enjoy them and read, just as a good read, I don't care what your religious belief is. I don't believe whatever, or I don't care however it is. Just if you take it as a good campfire story, you can have some fun with it. And if you get a little spooked by it, even better. Please let me know, because I love that. Yeah. And that's what I try to do with it. Even in the county's books, it touches on elements of the paranormal. It will touch on elements of folklore. It will touch. It's got all kinds of stuff. Everything from Bigfoots to some fairy lore and different things like that. It's things you wouldn't have thought would be in Kentucky. So, because you always hear about the Pacific Northwest, maybe farther up North Michigan area. Maybe the woods of New Jersey and stuff. Jersey Devil and things. But we have things similar like that here too. It's really strange.
Yeah, I know. And I do have a question in chat about Berkeley County. Do you have a legend about Berkeley County?
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to remember, because like I said, I've finished the book. I'm waiting to release it next year, and we're actually writing on the second book. I'm trying to remember what Berkeley County was. For some reason, I thought there was a thing of it wasn't really a Bigfoot, but it was like a white furred thing. It wasn't exactly a Bigfoot, but it was just a really white, dense furred, almost like a wiry furred sort of cryptid that was running around up there. I apologize. I would have had the books ready if I was expecting these questions. Or actually my computer, because it's all on PDFs and stuff like that right now. But I believe that was what was going on from there. But there's so many things that kind of tie in with each other, because certain areas like in Eastern Kentucky, and you come down through what they call the Devil's Backbone, and there's a lot of small communities in places like that converge, different states converge in one area, and then, you have like 2 or 3 different states in maybe 25, 30 mile area, and all these type of creatures roam in those different ones. So you have to kind of pick and choose what county you want to put what thing is, because it's kind of prolific.
What was the exact name of that book? Because one of the listeners would like to get that book.
Working title, because like I said, it's not released. Curious Counties of Kentucky, or I think it was like the Curious County. If you go to stevieasher.com or go to Amazon and punch in again Stevie Asher, when it comes available, it will pop right up. Maybe put Kentucky County Stevie Asher, and it should bring it right up. But that is not released as of yet, because like I said, I will be doing that probably spring, early summer. That'll be the first book. And then there's also a short stories book that I mentioned that'll come out. And then the following year we'll have the second part of the state book.
Okay. I look forward to that, because like I said, I know quite a bit about the state of Kentucky from all the years of going out there. Somebody asks about Goat Man.
Oh yeah. No, you're talking about the bridge here. You're not talking about the one down in Texas, right? Because a lot of different people have Goat Man. But you're talking about the one, obviously, here, I guess, here in Kentucky. Yeah, it's a weird story, and it's really bad, because I don't know if you knew recently, some people were out there, I guess, trying to find Goat Man, and either got thrown or fell or which of course it's like, oh man, got him. But you're running around in the middle of the night on a woods or out on a wooded bridge that's really doesn't have any lighting really out there. And if you're out there trying to use a thermal and walking around, I mean, you very well could have fallen and hurt yourself or whatever. But yeah, that's an interesting story, and it depends on who you talk to about the legend. Some people say it's almost like a thing that ties in with like the Jersey Devil, like someone had a baby and it was sort of deformed and it was evil. And then you say there's some guy that was like an evil farmer and this and that. And God knows, I don't know if he mated with a goat or if he made some sort of deal with the devil. And so his offspring was like deformed, you could go a lot of different ways. I've heard like 3 or 4 different versions of it, but I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. I'd like to go check it out sometime. Just for the pure thrill of checking it out. Same with Waverly. I've never been to Waverly, and I know everybody goes,
Me
"How have you not been to Waverly?"
Me either. And I've been on the property, in the golf course that it's at, and I still haven't been there, and been to Churchill Downs, but still haven't been there. So
it's a family there way back in the day. Now, see, the Western State Hospital also had at one time treated TB and stuff. So obviously they can't ship everybody to Eastern Kentucky. But yeah, it's one of those deals where anytime when it's like everyone's like, "Hey, you gotta go," I'm like, "No, I don't." I pull back and wait for the masses to clear out, and then when it's calm, I can maybe actually get some true readings, and it's somewhere I'm with it. It's just my big thing about there is that, like, if they let you investigate, it's a floor, and then there's another investigation going on right down below you.
That's what I keep telling everybody, and they're like, "No, I booked it for me and my team, and it's just us." And it's like, no, it's not.
Nope. Unless you have that clearly written in the stuff, which, I mean, like I said, that's fine. And if people were fine with that, have fun with that. But, I mean, even if it was completely empty, you're not super far from highways and things and different noises. I mean, you're going to get ambient noises from anything.
You're in a neighborhood.
You're in a neighborhood, right? You go to it's out sort of toward the end of it, but it's in a neighborhood. And who's to say that, and I don't know the people at Waverly. I don't know. Who's to say they're not going to pipe something in? Because, again, it's a money-making place. So,
like I said, I know where it is. I've been at the gate, and that's all I can say. I haven't been. And I don't know if I want to go or not, mostly because of the fact that if I'm paying $1,000 or more to be there, I don't want to share it with 5 other teams that I don't know.
No, for $1,000, man, there better be like a steak and shrimp as big as my fist after that, man. I mean, that to me, I'm sorry to be so informal with you, but that's just like, no.
It's $100 a person, basically. Yeah. And you have to have it, and it's a minimum of $1,000.
Right.
And
if I could get like what I'm thinking of, like if they could say put me down in like what they call the death chute or the death tunnel and stuff like that, and it's kind of closed up, so there's not a lot of ambient noise going on, maybe that would be cool. But like you said, I think a lot of the windows and stuff aren't in. I think because you could pick up any sound coming up the stairwell, you can get anything coming out, bouncing off the trees or the ground from below up in there. And
well, they do now have areas where you can sleep there now.
Yeah, I had actually seen it. Well,
they've changed it around a little bit. They've done some work to where you can actually stay on the property, which is kind of nice. So you don't have to have a hotel too.
Well, I seen a show. There's a show. It's like on YouTube. It's not like a BuzzFeed thing. Anyway, and they had just sort of like different little wonky places, and there's my wonky again. Different little crazy places, and they had stayed there. And I don't know if they had the whole night, but they got some really weird stuff. And I'm not saying it's not haunted. But I mean, I can take you to like the old Outwood grounds in Dawson Springs, Kentucky, where a lot of people died of TB. I can take you to Marion, Kentucky, at the what's it called? I think it's the Ford. Is it the Ford or is it Paradise Cemetery? Hold on, I'm getting my cemeteries mixed up. Anyway, but it's in Marion, Kentucky, where the little witch's grave is, where supposedly a mother, who I think she was probably an herbalist or something. But anyway, it was her and her daughter, and they flipped out and said she was, doing witchcraft. So they burnt the daughter, or burnt the mother, and I guess the daughter got burnt too, because technically they said she was helping her. But then they felt bad after the fact, saying, well, she was kind of before the age of knowledge. She was like a 6-year-old, and supposedly went ahead and buried her in the graveyard, but buried the mother outside the property. And so anyway, then they say, well, you'll hear the noises outside the graveyard, which is the mother or something else dark they call the Watcher walking around. Okay, again, this is all folklore, but
yeah, and I've heard that story.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, I don't know. Do you know that there are 2 different birth or death certificates, right, with different dates on them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there you go. Because most people go, well, no, this one says no, but the original one says something different. The time is different. If it happened, that's either way, it's horrific. Right. Some people said the girl died of like consumption or something like that. But I've been to the grave. I've did readings at the grave. Of course, again, I go through the city and I get permission because, I'd rather not go to jail. Got all the noises, things walking around, stomping outside the graveyard. Went outside, flashed big lights all up and down it, couldn't see a thing, still heard it. And the thing is, they have the grave covered in with concrete. They've got, fencing, netting across the top. The legend says, if you get by the grave, it'll try to pull you down. But the thing is, if it wasn't anything like that, and it was all BS, why go through all those extra steps? So I don't know.
Because of the fact that people probably were going out there and vandalizing the graveyard. That's what happened out here at the Stoll graveyard. People started vandalizing it.
That's very likely too. Well, no. I mean, I'm saying there's nothing wrong with protecting it and doing whatever. But the thing is, if the mother, if the mother was not considered a witch and did all this and that, where is she at?
Right.
She's not there, from what I understand, unless she's buried in an unmarked thing. Why would she be buried in an unmarked thing?
And she could have been marked in an unmarked grave because of all the other stuff. Maybe her grave was marked, or who knows? There's all kinds of theories. But you know what? This is our last break. We're going to come back and ask Tom's question after this break. But you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama, and we will be back in just a couple minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Steve E. Asher. He is an author, and we are going to finish up tonight with a question from Tom, because I know that Steve's he's got these really great answers that he's going to answer this question and probably 5 more with the answer. So here we go. Here's the question. So listen carefully. Suppose you get invited to investigate a home. How would you weed out the true cases over the fraudulent cases so you don't waste your time? Would you need them to sign a waiver before you step in anyone's home?
I've never done that. There are ground rules and there are different things. And, just like, good Lord, I'm trying to think of, say you're going to have somebody babysit a kid or work on your car or something. You kind of vet them. You've got to. You kind of got to have an idea. And you can generally run through some questions. And one of the questions is, are you on any sort of medications? And I don't mean, to be personal. Is there any history of mental illness in your family? Things like that. What do you hope to get out of this? Because it's like, we really hope it's haunted. This is not. How much of this is wishful thinking? How much of this is possibly a condition? How much of this is natural? Something from your environment. But more or less, if it's a person you can see in their eyes, it's like, we don't know what to do. We can't leave here. Our money's in here. We're invested in this house. Kids aren't sleeping. I'm not sleeping. Kids doing bad in school, whatever, missing work because someone's sleeping. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job if we can't get this calmed down and everybody go back to some sort of normal schedule. That's the type of ones I go to anymore. Just because you get to the point now, because like I said, fortunately or unfortunately, I do so much writing now. I do the podcasts now. So I had to pull back a little bit so I really have to pick and choose. It's not just, hey, we heard there's haunting down at old man Crothers' barn, that's not what I run to as much. But as of a waiver, I've never even thought about that. If I ever had to get to the point where I had to do a lot of paperwork and stuff like that, I don't know if I want to do it. I mean, because it's there to help somebody. It's not. I feel like I'm selling a Mazda or something to somebody.
Well,
get all the paperwork. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if it's like we're going to investigate somewhere, and I mean, I'm trying to think of a thing that I'd even want to do that. Now, say if I was training somebody or teaching a class and saying, look, we're going to a location. You are responsible for your stuff. We are not responsible for accidents if you listen to the rules and follow what we do. But yeah, you definitely got to vet people, and you definitely have to just make sure you're, again, not there for entertainment. You're not there as as whatever, a dinner party trick.
Well,
and
that's kind of like what we talked about before the show,
right.
Is that there was an event that we were invited to that I felt like we were the entertainment, and that's not why we're involved in the paranormal. Right. And, I believe that there are some people that contact paranormal investigators to get attention.
No, you're right.
And
right. Yeah,
we've had people get upset when we don't come in with video cameras and take pictures and all this other stuff. And
well, they think it's The Conjuring. You're going to come in there with $35,000 worth of equipment and don't even know if there's activity. I mean, there's steps to this. It's just like your steps to people getting an exorcism. You have to talk to them, vet them, make sure they're, like you said, not crazy. It's not a gag. It's not some sort of physical manifestation that's caused by some sort of weird environmental factors or mass hysteria or whatever. You got to have that in line. You don't just jump head first. At least I don't.
Have you had any people come to you for an investigation that were not on the up and up? That you know of?
Like for me to investigate their location or them to join in an investigation? Because I've had both.
Okay. So it doesn't really matter either way. You've already had somebody come to you and say, hey, my location is haunted, or I need you to investigate this because I need you to do this, and then it's not. Or the other way, have you had people fake evidence?
I think some of it. I've had some people that I think
Or
have
imagined,
really,
I mean. Not
thank
fake,
you. Yeah,
maybe imagined.
I have not really had anybody who just straight up said, I got this hotel, right, and I really need some numbers. I really need some big numbers. What's it going to take to get an investigation out of you guys? That kind of thing. But I do, those ones like, oh, did you feel that? Kind of thing. And people have, things brush against them and whatnot. But like, I'm talking like every single room, and like, there's an Indian chief here, and he's telling me, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And let's say you are having that, but it's like every place we go, there's an Indian chief. I mean, there's a lot of freaking Indians around here, but I don't know how many chiefs there were, or Native Americans, pardon me. But
because a lot of times there were just Indians, and they weren't all chiefs.
right, and that's what people fail to realize. But I think sometimes people want to be part of something so bad that they kind of delude themselves to things. And this is coming from a guy who runs around in the dark and tries to take pictures of spooks, right? But you have to kind of go, sometimes it's just pipes. Sometimes maybe it was a one-off and it doesn't repeat itself. Does that mean it wasn't a haunting? No. Does it mean that I can prove it or disprove it? No. So what does it come up? It comes with a big zero. So we have to kind of put it on the back burner until something else happens or some other evidence comes in. But yeah, and it's hard. I know some people that really wanted to be on the team, because we have the name of our team is the Caldwell County Paranormals. And I've had some people that would say, oh, I'd love to go on a thing, and I kind of check out their Facebook pages. And I'm like, no. And especially like, and I say this, I'm not trying to make a judgment call, but, I'm not a partier. I don't drink or smoke. And that's fine. You can if you want, but don't do it during the investigation. Mm-hmm. Don't come up dosed up and wanting us to take anything you see that you feel you saw or whatnot as anything as plausible, because you completely kind of screwed the pooch on it in regards to your validity due to the fact that you were compromised.
Right.
So, and people don't get it, and then they want to get mad, like, man, you're not cool. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be cool. I'm trying to do research. But I'm cool enough to tell you that, what you're doing is super disrespectful.
Right. Not only to the spirits, but to your team and to yourself and to if you have a client.
Also, I don't let anyone, myself included, go into somewhere, especially if it's something possibly negative, if you're sick, if you've had a recent loss, if you're going through a divorce, if your cat's going through surgery, if you have anything that's compromising you emotionally, your focus, your health, anything, if there's something dark, that's when things tend to want to latch onto you. I do think that there's darkness out there. I'm not saying it's an angel or devil or whatever. I'm not saying anything are absolutes, but there are negative entities that I feel will manipulate that and latch onto you and feed on your misery and feed on your weakness. It's, right. I mean, just like in prison, I've seen it there too. So, sometimes I've had to tell people just for that reason, look, man, you are compromised. Either you're too close to it, because I've had people who wanted to investigate maybe where their parents committed suicide or something, which I'm like, man, why would you want to do that? And I just have to say, you are
honestly, where their parents committed suicide.
Yeah, because they're trying to understand why. And I'm just saying, there's nothing that you can't understand.
It's
not your fault. Just know it's not your fault. And know all you can do is learn from this and go with it. And so you end up being, it's like paranormal Dr. Phil to these people, trying to go, look, man, your answers that you're looking for are not going to be in this room where, there's a blood stain where your pop shot himself.
Yeah.
His demons were his demons.
I have to say, I do have this feeling that I want to investigate where my father was murdered.
But
I used to live in that house, so right. It's a whole different thing.
But I don't think
I'm an adult now.
Right, but I don't think it's like some people almost have, they're so locked into it. It's like they're a haunt. It's like they're a residual haunting. They're emotionally locked into this thing to almost a morbid fascination-esque type degree. And which I'm thinking that is healthy. That's not healthy. And unless, I've seen people use people that I truly thought were maybe mentally impaired or had some other things going on and used them as part of whatever. Maybe they thought they would trigger it or something. I'm like, why would you put someone who's marginalized into something like that? You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't understand why you would take that step. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's horrible. Like you said, now the first 20 years that my dad had been gone, I never would have dreamt about doing that. But now it's been 40 years. I think I'm mentally able to handle going to that location now and investigating it just to get answers, to find out if, I know that the things that I saw were real, but to prove it to myself that they were real, that's all. But I'm not obsessed with it, because if I was obsessed with it, I'd go to Baltimore and do it.
Right. Well,
but I haven't been to Baltimore in 31 years. So, so that tells you I'm not obsessed. I'm healthy. But I know that there are people that are obsessed.
No. And please don't take what I'm saying as any way being harsh.
I understand.
There's closure, and then there's obsessive compulsive behavior, unhealthy type stuff.
And I've seen it, because I've had that as well with a certain location, but then I found out why I had that with a certain location. And I'll explain that someday. But I don't have that obsession now. So that probably...
It is easy to do. It's easy to fall into certain locations are kind of your white whale. They're for whatever reason, maybe it just hits something in your psyche or something DNA related or something. I'm always attracted to a lot of like Native American related stuff. And my father's side's great grandmother supposedly come in on the Trail of Tears. She was an infant. The parents died, and they were adopted by a white family here in Princeton. And she was, good Lord, looked like she was made of copper. Hairs, it wasn't white, it was silver, and it was just beautiful. But not that you can see any of that in me now, but I feel a connection to that, just like I do the Trail of Tears.
I do too. And because my family was on it as well. And then we live off the Potawatomi Trail of Death.
Man, that sounds like a summer vacation spot. You can send me some information on this. That's where I want to do. That's where I want to do my next vacation.
So
I'm making a joke,
You know what? Before we go, if anybody wanted to find Steve E. Asher, how would they find you?
Well, go online again to steveeasher.com. You can also find me my show House of Asher, be it on Spreaker, be it on YouTube, be it on Paranormal UK Radio, and you can also find the History from the Dark Side. It's going to be on YouTube as well. And if you're anywhere near Western Kentucky, you can go to my Facebook page or whatever. Add me on there. If you ever want a book, I've actually brought books to people that's like, hey, we're in town. Can you bring us a book and sign it? Sure. I'm real approachable, and come up, say hi.
Well, I look forward to meeting you sometime in the near future. Maybe on one of those lovely trips that we take going around the United States, just checking stuff out. And if I had known or thought about it, I would have contacted you before our vacation, which I'd already had you booked before our vacation, but I didn't even think about getting with you. But of course, that always happens, right before vacation. You think about all this stuff, and then you forget, and then after vacation, I was like, oh, darn, I should have had a V8. And you were the V8. So I would like to thank you so much for being on the Paranormal Pride. And I hope everybody will go out to Amazon.com and check out Steve E. Asher's books, or go to his website, steveeasher.com, and check out all the stuff he has to offer. And tune in next week at 7 p.m. Central to WBHM-DB.com and find out who my next guest is going to be, because I have to still figure out who that's going to be right now. I think it's going to be somebody really great. I guarantee it. So tune in and find out who it's going to be, and we are all going to have a great time like we do all the time. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, Steve. And we'll talk to you guys all next Monday at 7 p.m. Central. Thank you.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.